It's my pleasure now to introduce our next speaker, Ms. Ethel Bunch. She is the founder and CEO of Sustain SC. Sustain SC, and Ethel in particular, are a leader in bringing manufacturing and other great businesses to South Carolina. Would you please welcome her with a warm Horry County and Georgetown County welcome.
Thank you, Clay, and I'm thrilled to be with you all today. And also, I want to shout out to Colby as well. He has been excellent in helping get me organized and getting this whole group to be together today. First and foremost, I want to thank you all for the weather. I mean, you have literally laid out the mission of Sustain SC. We are the intersection of commerce and conservation, and when you look out at your view right now, I don't think it gets any better. The only thing I'm complaining about is we're all sitting inside here and not out there on that beach. But before I get started with kind of what is Sustain SC, how did we get here, I wanted to show a very brief video, which is really the genesis of Sustain SC and how I started this about at least 8, if not 10 years ago.
In South Carolina, some choices just seem absolute. Gamecocks or tigers, sweet or unsweet, downtown or down home. For too long, you could say the same about commerce and conservation, but that's about to change. At Sustain SC, we know the power of collaboration, and we know that together is the only way forward.
It's really important that we bring people together, like-minded people, to create solutions, that are good for the environment, they're good for society as well, and good for the communities we operate in.
We believe that sustainability in South Carolina is not just about commerce or conservation. We believe that South Carolina is the future of both commerce and conservation.
It's important that as organizations and leaders in organizations, we acknowledge that the supply chain created these problems, and we are the only place that can fix them.
South Carolina has got so much resources, already in place. The corporations that are here seem to be very committed, so I see it progressing in South Carolina quickly.
Our population is booming and our resources are finite. The same air, land, and water we depend on for an international tourism industry we need to support a billion-dollar agribusiness community and new industry coming to our state with their own sustainability goals.
Sustainability positions us for the future. Our current employees want it, our future employees want it, our customers, all stakeholders. It's the right thing to do, and it's the right thing to do for business.
Sustainability is not a nice have, it's a must have. And what's important to the businesses is important to the state. So we're going to be here to help support them with their goals, to be able to see what challenges that we have ahead, and also all of the amazing opportunities and emerging technologies and green technologies, green energy.
Sustain SC exists to seek out and facilitate the conversations between unlikely partners so that the needs of our growing economy can be met in an environmentally sustainable way.
We had to go out and make ourselves a little bit vulnerable as we talk to all of these organizations. And what Sustain SC has helped us figure out is, hey, there's an organization, a collaboration, a group that they're right there for us. And we get to talk about what our values are, we get to hear what their values are, and we get to see these obvious places where a lot of these things really align.
Sustain SC has brought a heightened sense of the need of collaboration, not only of agriculture, of industry, more environmentally focused groups will find common denominators to make South Carolina the best place it can be.
We're delighted when we find those partners close to home in South Carolina, where Michelin has had its home for so many years now.
What's the world going to look like when it's 2040, when it's 2050? So bringing all of our collaborative minds together, talking about the future, talking about what can we do to really move the needle moving forward.
We named our sustainability report Sustainable Aerospace Together. It's a nod to the fact that no company is going to get there alone. And so things like Sustain SC, where we're bringing cross-sectoral companies together, that's what it's going to take in the future to solve these problems.
As an institution that deploys capital, it's our responsibility to make sure that we are addressing climate change, addressing the Sustainable Development Goals, and really deploying capital and getting capital into the hands of those that really want to help us transition to a low-carbon economy.
We've already seen success with major industry making million-dollar investments to protect high-value natural resources.
When we were offered land here to build our first plant in America, it is in a precious area surrounded by wetlands and very rich wildlife. So we're very proud to say that part of the project of building a plant here was to mitigate 1,500 acres of neighboring wetland. So we're working towards the next generation so they have something to inherit and they can be proud of what we've done.
Thousands of acres of valuable wetlands in the Lowcountry are now protected because of the growth and investment of SC Ports, Boeing, and Volvo Cars, and the involvement of groups like the Nature Conservancy and Department of Natural Resources. Collaboration made it possible.
Sustain SC, to me, is a perfect example of organizations coming together voluntarily and saying, we're going to take responsibility. And we don't have all the answers, but we know one of the answers is all of us working together.
When jobs come to South Carolina, when corporations can flourish, when the environment can be protected, there's a lot of winners. This is all coming together in one small state at one time with so many different entities, so many different people to accomplish the same goal. It's really a miracle.
The choices we make end up making us and our future. And at Sustain SC, we're choosing to make South Carolina the crossroad of conservation and commerce.
That's really the story behind how Sustain SC started. So I, about 8 years ago, went down to Charleston. Elizabeth Haygood, who was the executive director of Lowcountry Land Trust, granted me with a lunch meeting, and I said, you're going to hire me. She said, I don't have a job. And I said, well, after this, I'm a fundraiser. I always make money for myself, so that's pretty simple. And I said, you know what? The Boeing mitigation project is the DNA of South Carolina. We're a pro-business state. We brought an incredible company to the state. And not soon after, they needed to do an expansion project. And that's music to our ears, right? I mean, we're ready for more jobs, more money coming to the state, but they were going to impact wetlands, and they needed their permit in 6 months. And all of you know that's impossible. If you're impacting wetlands, it's going to take a little more than 6 months. And they brought everybody together, the conservation community, EPA, Army Corps, DNR, everybody to say, what can we do to be able to get our permit in 6 months? And they invested $12 million in the East Cooper River Corridor, which is the green belt that's being built by the conservation community to protect the peninsula. And they got their permit in 6 months and 1 day. And it's the EPA Smart Sector. They got the national award for the EPA Smart Sector. And everybody started to follow. And I was like, this is not rocket science, right? We can have the best of business and we can have the best of protecting our natural resources. So then after that, I spent 4 years bringing all of those groups around the table and facilitated conversation. And if you didn't know me then, you were glad, because it was painful. I had state agencies, utilities, conservation NGOs, industry. People were in lawsuits and they'd still sit around, the table with us and talk about, how do you define land and water use? How do you define South Carolina? And how can we work together and really reach that 80% that we agree on that will move the state forward with new jobs, new investments, all the while protecting our natural resources? Because there's not one of us that doesn't want to be on a boat right now, that doesn't want to be hiking in the upstate, or doesn't want to be hunting and fishing and loving every minute of it. It is who we are as people and as citizens of this state. So we got through that, and then you kind of fast forwarded, and what we started to see on a global level were that companies were starting to say, okay, we're being pressured by our shareholders, we're being pressured by our investors, our workforce, the younger workforce, our customer base, that they want us to be more sustainable. So they started to set net zero, carbon negative goals, water positive goals, zero waste to landfill goals. And I had been traveling, the Department of Commerce had sent me to several symposiums in Glasgow and Egypt. And I was like, you know what, all of this talk really works well in my state. If it's being driven by the private sector and they are focused on conservation efforts, efforts, I can take that home and I can come out publicly with an entity that can support those initiatives. And so in March of 2021, I was able to launch what is now Sustain SC, which we have the mission to connect the sustainability goals of business in South Carolina with local solutions. And that is to not only protect the environment and our people, but very much to protect our economy and to drive our economy. So how do we all look at South Carolina? We're 20 million acres, right? And that number's finite. That includes our water, that includes our land mass. We hit about 5 million, I guess it was in 2021, in population. That took us about 290 years to accomplish. And we are forecasted to more than double that population in the next 50 years. We're second most inbound state due to COVID for inbound migration. And all of us have Southern charm. And so I think we've been found. That has been found. And people are coming here in droves. But what drives our economy? Well, it's our natural resource-based infrastructure, and it's our quality of life. Agribusiness, forestry, and ag. We still have, of those 20 million acres, 12.9 million forested acres. And it's, I bet everyone in here could answer what the third is. Tourism. So those are the leading drivers of our economy. We are the mountains to the sea, our quality of life, people are attracted, and people are coming in droves. But at the same time, we have 12 million global companies that are calling South Carolina home. And every one of those companies is committed to everything I just laid out. And so how do we as a state capitalize on this opportunity? We're a pro-business state. Jobs and investments are paramount. And at the same time, if we're working very closely with these companies to meet their sustainability goals, we're starting to protect our natural resources. We're starting to conserve what is precious, but growing our economy. And that is a win-win-win. I don't know if any of you, were any of you at the inauguration, Governor McMaster's inauguration? Or did you watch, I knew you would be. Or did you watch the State of the State? And if you didn't, I will send you his speech after this. He drove home two things that are extremely important. Number one, last year was the biggest economic year for the state of South Carolina. We had the biggest investments ever known to the state. I think we're probably going to outdo it this year. And number two, that conservation and commerce are not in combat with each other. That as South Carolinians, and he is a true South Carolinian, I'm a true South Carolinian, I married my next door neighbor, we can have the best of both of those worlds. That's just who we are as a state. And what does that look like? Well, you mentioned Scout, but why did we have such a big economic boom last year? Because the companies that are here needed the next economic innovation, which are those sustainable companies, and they're the next billion-dollar companies that came to our state. We had the $3.5 billion investment of Redwood in Berkeley County. We had Bosch that has invested in the hydrogen fuel cell and in the electric motor. We had BMW that invested $1.8 billion in transitioning to the EV. And we just had Scout that was another $2 billion investment that should have come to Myrtle Beach, I hear, but came to my area in Blythewood. So what you're seeing is, what we're seeing is a transition from the industrial to the sustainable revolution. So what does that look like? That means that these companies are investing in things that are reducing their footprint. So new jobs, new investments, major dollars in these new economic innovations, but they're reducing their footprint along the way. And that is key, and that is at the very nexus of Sustain SC's mission. So what does that look like in Myrtle Beach? Well, you are literally the poster child for Sustain SC's mission, because Google came here. Were any of you involved in the DC blocks real estate? Okay, there you go. Congratulations. Very well done. So Myrtle Beach right here has one of the most high-tech cable lines that is running from Myrtle Beach State Park all the way down to South America. A major project. that was a commitment here in Myrtle Beach. And to me, we've just hit the tip of the iceberg. To me, that's kind of your catalyst, and you're going to see a lot to follow. But what did Google do after they made that commitment in Myrtle Beach? They said, all right, we're citizens. We're coming to Myrtle Beach. We're a water-positive company. We believe in resilience. We believe in biodiversity. And we want to make a major commitment where we are going to have a footprint to conserve what is precious to the citizens of Myrtle Beach. And they made a $500,000 commitment to Sustain SC to help protect Wade's Island. And I know you all know what Wade's Island is, but a lot of people in South Carolina do not. It's the Governor's Legacy Project. It is the last undeveloped barrier island in South Carolina. And if Wade's was not here, I don't think Hurricane Ian would have been quite as friendly to you all. A barrier island is meant to do just what it says, just to protect. And within 3 weeks, thanks to my friend Mike, Waccamaw Community Foundation and the businesses in your town came together and matched Google's gift. And we were able to preserve the first part of Wade's for Myrtle Beach. So you can have the best of both through Google's gift for conservation and through their investment in Myrtle Beach. And that to me is, that is our mission, and that to me you all should be extremely proud. And I believe firmly that that is the future of Myrtle Beach, that you have just touched the tip of the iceberg. We've hired an economist who is going to start to look at a county level at what other demand is there in the state of South Carolina for economic innovation, down to looking at Myrtle Beach, looking at the Grand Strand. How can you all attract this next sustainable revolution to Myrtle Beach? You've got the medical community, you've got the tech community here. You understand that workforce, the young workforce, is looking for very cool places to live. You've got the quality of life. I mean, you're poised and positioned to be the intersection of commerce and conservation. So these are our members. This is who is part of our mission, and we work with them every day to attract that next sustainable revolution, to make sure we can retain these companies, that they can meet their sustainability goals. We work with their supply chain to make sure that they understand that they need to be committed to sustainability. And we believe, like Governor McMaster believes, that this is one time we're not going to be 50th, we're not going to be 38th. We are going to be number one when it comes to being pro-business and balancing the best of both of these worlds. And my call to action for you all today, not only thank you for having me, but is to understand. I mean, as a child, this is where I grew up. And I would go from Georgetown County all the way up to Myrtle Beach. And when I went and left the state, because remember, the grass is always greener when you're young, and I would bring my friends back to this state, my mother would always say, when you say you're from South Carolina, they kind of look at you funny. You bring them to our coastline. And then they're going to be like, wow, this is a hidden gem. It's not hidden anymore. Our Southern charm was too much. They're coming here in droves. But collectively, just like Sustain SC has done, all of you get together, bring together all of the community to make sure that Myrtle Beach and the Grand Strand is everything that I've grown up to believe it is, and it's just getting ready to prosper even more. And Sustain SC is here for you to be that tool, to help you be that convener and facilitate and make sure that each one of us is continuing this in our DNA. It is our heritage. Let's claim it, and let's keep hunting and fishing and loving every minute of it.